when you lose Jen Psaki, you know you're in trouble. And that seems to be where Chuck Schumer is at right now. And I am in 100% agreement with her. Of course, maybe Jen Psaki should have pointed that out as well with Mr. Biden, with former President Biden. But anyhow, she's absolutely right. I want you to listen to her take on the shutdown and her take about Schumer, and then we'll take it on the other side.
On a Sunday morning back in 2019, Chuck Schumer held a press conference on what may not sound like a very pressing issue, research into honeybees.
No one quite knows why so many bee colonies are dying off.
Scientists have a number of theories, but their research, according to New York Senator Chuck Schumer, may be jeopardized by a cut in funding for scientific data that the U.S. Department of Agriculture collects on bee colonies.
It could be that the pesticide industry, or the company that makes these pesticides, has gotten to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We don't know which of them it is. We do know one thing. We need this money restored.
It may seem like a little thing, the bee issue, but as a senator for the past quarter century, Schumer's been all about effectively magnifying the little things, holding press conferences to stop robocalls to seniors or to deregulate canned wine. There was also the time he warned of the dangers of tasty-looking Tide detergent pods. A full 6 years, by the way, before teens launched a viral challenge to eat the tasty little Tide pods. My point is that Schumer was an absolute master at drawing attention to issues big and small, all the time. He was known as the man who invented the Sunday presser, showing how to dominate the Monday headlines. The joke in Washington was the most dangerous place here was between him and a camera. He always knew how to get things done in Washington, too. I mean, in 26 years as a senator, including 9 years as the Democratic leader, he helped pass and protect Obamacare, as well as background checks on gun sales. He shepherded all of Joe Biden's major bills through the Senate, and he raised tens of millions of dollars for Democratic candidates, many of whom he recruited as majority leader. But when the once notoriously aggressive senator who invented the Sunday presser was asked by the New York Times this weekend about whether Democrats' media strategy was inauthentic and outdated, part of his answer kind of told you everything you needed to know. Here's what he said. We had like 60 influencers at the State of the Union, and they went on all the social media. According to the people who tell me, because I get all these reports, it had millions and millions of views. Now, repeatedly saying the social media, of course, is its own dead giveaway. I get all these reports about information that is readily available to literally anyone who has ever posted on any of these platforms. That's the other one. Not exactly authentic or modern. And when Schumer was asked why he was the right person to lead the Democrats right now, his answer was basically that he'd done it before. Here's the thing. Michael Jordan was also the best basketball player of all time. But would he be starting for the Bulls this week? I think we know the answer to that one. Look, experience is a good thing. It's important. But seniority and keeping people in charge simply because they have done it before should not be the only thing. In fact, doing things the way they have always been done is not working. Case in point, Schumer backed down from a government shutdown threat and helped Republicans pass their funding bill last week. His argument was that a shutdown would make it harder to resist Trump's takeover of the government. They're taking over the government. They're running the government. They're dismantling the government, despite this. And in the process, he also gave up all their leverage. And Republican leaders, including Trump, didn't have to pay any price. I mean, Trump even thanked Schumer for doing the right thing. He thanked him. Literally, that was his quote, for doing the right thing. Chuck Schumer was a hell of a majority leader in his prime. I grew up in politics when he was majority leader, when he was the aggressive senator, when he was the aggressive member of Congress who was dominating media coverage, arm-twisting Republicans and members of his own party, and raising an absolute boatload of money for Democrats. But he is not in his prime. The Republican Party is not the party of McCain or Romney or even George W. Bush. Schumer's own party is so mad at him that he had to cancel his own book tour over the backlash. And the social media, not the Sunday press conference, is actually how the majority of people communicate and consume news these days. So where does that leave the Democrats these days? Well, feels to me like instead of just making tweaks to the margins of the message, which by the way is important too, maybe it's time to spend more time to throwing out the hard copy of the old playbook and start thinking about new messengers.
Here is the deal. A responsible party, a responsible leader would always ensure that they have a bench that is primed to move to the next level. And that is severely lacking right now in the Democratic Party because we have very smart young people that are activated, social media savvy, know how to raise money in many savvy ways from the masses, etc. But because of the failed structure that we have within the party, where seniority reigns, even if the seniors within that party choose not to develop themselves into the future. As an example, we have a Bernie Sanders that's much older than Chuck Schumer, but Bernie has been able to mobilize in such a manner that he can attract young and old. Why? Because he gets what he doesn't know himself. He surrounds himself with those who are doing things the new way. But Chuck Schumer doesn't give a damn when he says, I got reports of of what was done on social media. Damn it. Look up on the social media yourself. You should be in your office looking at your social media to see how things are being elevated, etc., and doing your own as well. You know, you sit down and you watch Bernie. Bernie is on the phone tweeting, even the current president of the United States, even as he sends his misspelled, grammatically incorrect stuff, he has learned how to move with his masses. And too many of the older Democrats, they refuse to do that. And henceforth, where we are, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was running for the position, we give it to an older guy that isn't up for the job. The same thing with the communication that in the House where Crockett was running, we give it to an older woman who doesn't have the savvy that Crockett has. That is the problem. We've always talked about the media, but the media, in as much as they're pretty darn bad, they need to have something to work with. And with these older guys that refuse to bring themselves up into the 2100s, 21st century, what we have is two communications gap. A communication gap that is unable to meet the people and a communication gap that is unable to use the press as its own device. That has to change. And until that change, we'll continue to seed the messaging to the other side. We'll continue to seed that messaging to those who lie.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.